and it's just past 6 p.m. UK time. This is the Spiritual Discussion Program, and I'm Saad, the host of the show. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Uprushin. And every week we have a new topic for discussion. The topic tonight is decision making, changing your mind. Decision making, changing your mind. Usually I have my colleague Gregory with me. Unfortunately, he can't make it tonight. So it's just going to be me on the show. The show is a question and answer show. So I'll be asking the questions and I'll be answering them as well. And you're welcome to join in too with your questions or comments. You can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. I would prefer you don't call tonight since I'm on my own. And there's one other way you can contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is blessradio1, that's the number one.com. If you scroll down on the home page, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions and comments. Now, it's very hot here in London. I think it's 33 degrees and hardly any breeze. So I've got a fan on in the background. Hope you are, it doesn't disturb you. But I think I need that for the show. So yes, welcome to the show, listeners. I'm going to begin with, what is the Grail message? The Grail message in the light of truth by Uprushin is a spiritual knowledge of life. It offers an explanation of the world, a picture of creation on the basis of natural laws. Its lectures contain valuable basic elements as a help in life. For through the knowledge mediated, the reader is again brought closer to life and led back to God. The Grail message deals with important fundamental questions of life by explaining in a clear and logical way the automatic working of the laws of nature, the whole weaving of creation, allowing every process to be recognized and thereby the purpose of our whole life. It is directed at the individual and speaks to the innate experiences of the human being, their strengths and weaknesses. Thus, every reader has the opportunity to discover through the intuitive perception if what is stated is the truth. Combining with matter-of-fact reasoning, a complete world picture arises, where there is no separation between the visible world and the great world beyond the five senses, nor any separation between scientific and religious striving for knowledge. I'd like to give you a couple of quotes from the author of the Grail message, Uprushin. The hearer and reader of my lectures should always work within himself, keenly probing and building bridges from one lecture to the other, as well as out into the great and small world happenings. Only then will he be able to understand the Grail message and find that it gradually shapes itself into one complete whole, without leaving any gaps. Again and again in all the happenings, the reader will come back to the basic features He can explain everything without having to change even one single sentence. The word of the Grail message lives, so that it permits only those people who really carry the honest desire in their souls to find abundantly. All else is automatically rejected by it. For the arrogant and those who seek superficially, the message will remain the book with 7 seals. And I'd like to give you one more quote from the author. I wish to fill the gaps which so far always remain unanswered in the souls of men, and which never leave any serious thinker in peace if he earnestly seeks for the truth. So, dear listeners, just to remind you, the topic that we're discussing tonight is decision making, changing your mind. Decision making, changing your mind. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And then there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is blessradio1, that's the number 1.com. And if you scroll down on the homepage, you will see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. Normally, and as today as well, we always look up the meaning of the words of the topic in the dictionary to see what meaning it gives and how suitable it is for our discussion. So the topic tonight is decision making, changing your mind. I will say it's in a way quite straightforward, but we'll still look it up, the words in the dictionary. The first word we have is decision. And in the meaning given in the dictionary I have is a conclusion or resolution reached after consideration. And they give an example. I'll make the decision on my own. So just to repeat this, a decision, the meaning given in the dictionary, a conclusion or resolution reached after consideration. So what can I say about that meaning? It sounds quite fine. I would say a resolution or even conclusion reached after consideration. Yeah, because you have to consider, think about before making a decision. So that's fine. I think it's most of us know what it means. The next word is making. Here the word is the dictionary meaning gives 2 meanings. The process of making or producing something. So it's a process of making. The word is making, so it's strange to use the same word again. Producing something. I would say coming to, in this case, making a decision is coming to a decision. So, yes, you can call it the process of coming to a decision. That's what I would say. That's fine as well, the process of it. And then another meaning it gives in the dictionary is the essential qualities needed for something. And they give an example of she has the makings of a great teacher. I will say that's not relevant for this context that we are talking about decision making. So it's more about the process of making the decision. And then the next word we have in the topic is changing. And that in the dictionary, it gives me 2 meanings there. Make someone or something different, alter or modify. think alter or modify, it's quite fine. Yeah, it's quite straightforward there. Let's look at the second meaning. Replace something with something else, especially something of the same kind that is newer or better. Substitute one thing for another. Again, I could say that's, part in one angle that makes sense as well. Replacing, but the first one was better because it said alter or modify. It's not necessarily you replacing. And then, and it was saying replacing something of the same kind that is newer or better. Well, that may be, doesn't have to be. Then they gave another picture, how can I say, another phrase for changing or explanation for, say, meaning of changing is substitute one thing for another. That is better because that can be what it is. Yes, we're changing one thing for another. Okay, and the last word in the topic tonight, which I'll just remind you, decision making, changing your mind. So the last word we have is mind in the topic, and in the dictionary we have two meanings given. The first one, the element of a person that enables them to be aware of the world and their experiences, to think and to feel, the faculty of consciousness and thought. A lot of thoughts ran through my mind. So yes, let me repeat that. The element of a person that enables them to be aware of the world and their experiences, to think and to feel, the faculty of consciousness and thought. So yes, that sounds right, that we use the mind to become aware of things in the world, which is really a faculty of consciousness, and being able to think. That's a quality of the mind. And the second meaning given in the dictionary was a person's ability to think and reason, the intellect. His keen mind is the example they gave. So the ability to think and reason. So that's also, I would say, correct. So the mind, you can say, has the faculty of consciousness and thought and reasoning, which is with the intellect. So it's quite a number of things, actually. When we think about the word mind. And we are talking about decision making, changing your mind. So maybe the immediate question comes up, what is it that it changes its mind? Your mind, my mind. Who is the I that is changing its mind? Is it the intellect, the ability to which is the way the person can reason and think? Or is it something to do with more with consciousness? So we're going to explore that. I would say mind is a bit of a global word covering this intellect and this where our consciousness is there working as well. So, as I said, we'll explore that more. Now, in the modern world today, we do use Google AI or artificial intelligence, and it's always good to have a look what, because this is more than just simple Googling, because it uses all of the data you can say out there and tries to put it in some order, which is a bit more than just a simple definition. So I looked up in Google AI, making a decision and changing your mind, because that's what we're discussing. And it gave me quite a long, could say, text in the search. So let's see what I found. And dear listeners, if you're just joining us now, just to let you know, I'm Saad, I'm the host, and normally I have Gregory with me answering the questions on the topic that we're talking about. But tonight, unfortunately, Gregory is not available. So I'm hosting, asking the question, and answering the questions as well. Right. So as I said, I looked up in Google AI what is searched this text, making a decision and changing your mind. And it came up with this response. Changing your mind after making a decision is a normal and often healthy part of decision making, especially when new information or circumstances arise. It's important to recognize that it's okay to reassess and adjust your course of action, even if it means going against an initial decision. Here's why changing your mind can be beneficial and how to approach it. Why it's okay to change your mind. And they've given a number of headings. The first one, learning and growth. Changing your mind often indicates you have learned something new or gained a different perspective. So I will comment on that and say, yes, because first of all, we human beings are not perfect, and we are developing, and we are growing. Now, this is meant to be a spiritual discussion program, and it looks like when you think about spiritual things, somehow people might think, oh, that is not, we don't need to consider this. We separate the spiritual from the earthly activities. And really, that's not the right, or that's not the case. Everything has a use and purpose, and it must be working in a way together, especially since we human beings are on this earth, and whatever abilities that we have, we must use them. So one of the abilities, of course, is, you could say, the physical body, not the ability, but we have a physical body, and it has certain abilities. One of them, we know, are the five senses, which allows us to work in this physical world. However, that's not everything. So the five senses are working on the earthly level. We also have, which is the real, would say, the living core of the human being, the spirit, which works. The spirit itself is not from the earth, it's from the spiritual world. Let's call it heaven to make it easy to separate from earth. And we human beings consist of, the real human being, let's say, is the spirit. When the human being is on this earth, the spirit is enveloped, you could say, or has this cloak of the physical body. And for the spirit to operate on this earth, it can't just have a thought or a wish and which automatically manifests on the physical level. It has to work through, the spirit has to work through the physical body for things to manifest in the physical. So yes, one of the things we've mentioned already is the mind or the brain, to keep it a more physical picture of it. And in this mind, let's say our consciousness is operating, or let's say it operates through the brain. It's hard to say this way, because the real thing is this spirit that is the real driver of it makes decisions, it makes everything on the system. It's all our decisions and all our activity in a way originates from the spirit. Yes, you could say there's some earthly body functions which have been, let's say, run unconsciously, and then there's things that we do consciously. Your breathing, yes, you can control it, and yet it's also working unconsciously, automatically. So I don't want to get too complicated and stuck on these concepts where we can get too bogged down in one area. You have to see the bigger picture first, and then you could say drill down into a particular area to examine and understand that particular area. So just to give the big picture first, we human beings are a spirit. At the moment we are living on this earth. To operate on this earth, we have a physical body. Yes, we have the 5 senses, and then we have our bodily functions that we need to exist on this earth. And with tonight's topic being decision making, changing your mind. So of course, all the time we are making decisions about our life. Some are important, some are not so important. For example, what I'm going to eat tonight, it is a decision, maybe not the most important decision. Other decisions, what career, or your home situation or something like that, social things may be more important, or would be more likely to be more important. Now, the other in the Google AI says changing your mind indicates you've learned something new or gained a different perspective. So that's another point to appreciate. We human beings are not perfect. We are developing in the earthly sense, from a child to adulthood, passing through the different stages. Obviously, it's all learning. And as we get into old age, let's say we've supposedly gained some wisdom through our experiences. And although every time there's an opportunity to learn, it's not always, there's always an opportunity to learn. And maybe the focus is, when you come towards the end of your life, it's not about so much learning, it's more getting ready for to the next world. So, yeah, so it's, but let's look at more focus on things about changing your mind after making a decision. So now, let me just look. Yes, I want to go into this now, actually. I don't want to Google AI, there's so much written there, but I do want to go into a question. So when one is making a decision, it is usually based on what one knows, but one never knows everything fully, i.e. all the consequences. So perhaps one should make a decision and then see how it goes and then change direction as necessary. Is this a good way? Well, like I said, making a decision, it depends how important the decision is. If you're trying to decide what you're going to eat tonight, that's not going to have the most, let's say, big consequence in your life. However, if you're running a company or trying to buy something, you could say, or making a decision in life about education or family matter, some problem is there, let's say, that one will require some consideration. And one would not say in that situation that you just make a decision and go with the flow and see what happens. And then, if necessary, you change the decision. Before you do that, really, you'd have to have thought about what would be the consequences. So I would say, everything we must look in the right context. Like I say, if it was eating, of course you don't want to eat something bad. That if you have some conditions or allergies, that will be harmful for your condition. Okay, so of course you need to think about that when you're talking about eating. But when we're talking something a little bit more serious, like a company decision affecting your employees, or a family matter which is affecting your family, so that automatically means you have to think about what would be the consequence. So I wouldn't say you just make a decision and see how it goes. Rather, you reflect what would be the consequences. So how can we make such decisions? Well, you started with saying you're always learning. So obviously a child making a decision, they will make quite a number of mistakes and they will learn from their mistakes. But when you have become an adult, and let's say even going through education and so on, even potentially training your work, then you would have some idea what would be the consequences. And then you know, if you say the risks of making a decision in a particular direction, you would weigh on it. So in the Grail message, we're always told to weigh and examine, because we do have responsibility. It's not there are consequences. So even if the earthly law doesn't, let's say, have a hold on you, or it doesn't catch you with some wrong decision that you might have made, some consequences, the natural laws, or could say this world that we live in, the nature's law, or law of creation also it's called, or the laws of God, if you want to say it in a different way, they are operating automatically all the time, no matter on this earth or in this next world of the beyond or heaven, however you picture it. And they operate independently of us human beings. In fact, I will just briefly mention what these natural laws are. And Jesus said it in a simple way to us as well. He said, what you sow, you shall reap. In the Grail message, it is said in a different way. It says, the law of reciprocal action. So you do an action, and there will be a reciprocal action. Automatically it will happen. You plant a seed, it could be your words, it could be your thoughts, it could be a physical deed. These are all actions of planting a seed. And then when you think of nature with planting a seed there, then we have nature bringing the sunshine, bringing the rain. And eventually this seed turns into a plant, into a flower, into a fruit, and then, in the harvesting as a fruit. It all takes its time, nature's time. You don't have control of that time. It is what nature produces. So you do the action, and the reaction is brought to us by nature. So you have a thought, you speak a word, you do a physical action. You do not see your thoughts, you do not see your words, but you can see your physical action, and then the consequence of those three ways of acting is brought by nature back to us, which may be invisibly coming back, and so we don't see that, and yet it happens. The physical action, yes, you might hit someone, and you not see the result immediately, if the person doesn't hit you back, let's say, or you may, So, and that when you're saying, oh, that's not from nature, that's the other person. Well, nature, that's with the invisible working, which we, let's say, of course we do not see it, but there is an activity, just like I'm on this radio station right now. And yes, we know there's a particular radio frequency that is how you can see, or you're on the internet, and it's only this website that you can hear us. So that is one of the laws of nature. What you sow, you shall reap. The law of reciprocal action. And there's another law, which is, in a simple slang way, you could say, birds of a feather flock together. That's how or like attracts like. That's how we might use that. But to be more precise, in the Grail message, we are told this law is the law of attraction of homogeneous species. The law of attraction of homogeneous or similar species. So now look at that bird of a feather flock together. The same bird species will come together. Crows will be together with crows, other birds with other same species. In our case, as human beings, we are attracted automatically to our own similar race, same race. It's natural, can't be helped. If you're a smoker, you'll be attracted to other smokers at a party. It'll happen. Or whatever hobby that you might have, at a party you'll start talking with those people, even though they are strangers. That thing that is in common with you will bring you together. So that's again a natural law. The third law we refer in a simple way as gravity. The proper way to call it is the law of spiritual gravitation. So you can see that that law operates throughout the whole universe, not just the physical level. We know what is light rises and what is heavy sinks. But this also applies in the spiritual world. Well, how can I give this picture? So when you do something to help someone, you feel uplifted. Or if you harm someone, feel some guilt. Notice the physical weight has not changed. Your physical weight has not changed. However, you feel light if you have done something good for someone, to help someone. Or if you have harmed someone, the guilt makes you feel heavy. So it's your spiritual weight that is being affected according to your actions. So you can see that this is not only physical, the law is gravity is not only in the physical world, it's also in the spiritual. It's actually it's in the whole creation, if we are to, because these are creation laws. Now, I'd like to, before I continue further, I'd just like to let our listeners know that you're listening to Bless Radio, and this is the spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message. And if you want to know more about the Grail message, okay. I think Gregory is now able to join us, so I just want to check that. Okay, let me just check with Gregory that he's okay to join us, and then I can. Hello, Gregory, you're live on the radio. Just want to check, are you okay to join us now? Okay, I didn't know, so I was doing the show myself. Okay, I'm going to put you online with me. Just one moment, please. I will put you on the show. So Gregory is going to join us, listeners. I'm going to add him to our just wait a second, find him. Okay, here we go. Okay, here we go. So Gregory will join us any moment. While we're waiting for Gregory, I just want to carry on. So, dear listeners, the topic that I wanted to say, if you want to know more about, you can go to this website, or if you want to get a copy of the message, you can go to this same website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic that we're discussing tonight is decision making, changing your mind. Decision making and changing your mind. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, yes, it is. Yeah, if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1.com. And if you scroll down on the home page, there's a box called Bless Chat. You can type in any questions or comments there. And I want to let you know, we are also broadcasting on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box, Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1 there, space, Grail message, space, the topic of the show tonight, which is decision making, changing your mind. And after the show tonight, which ends at 8 p.m. UK time, you can listen to the recording of this show. Again on YouTube, exactly the same way. Just go to youtube.com and type in the search box, Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1 there, space, Grail message, space, decision making, changing your mind. And of course, you can listen to our previous shows also on YouTube. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno. That's ZENO.FM/radio/Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1 again. So I just want to let listeners know Gregory is joined us. Welcome, Gregory. How are you doing? And how is the weather where you are? We're on mute.
It's fine and it's very hot.
You're fine and you're very hot. That's right. Same here. It's been very hot. In fact, I've got the fan in the background, and I hope it's not disturbing for the listeners. So welcome, Gregory. Just to recap for you, Gregory, in the first half an hour, I've been through the definition of the words, which are straightforward tonight. And then I started, basically, I was talking as you could say, the foundation about the natural laws that are explained and described in the Grail message. So I just finished doing that. The 3 natural laws. So, and now we will continue with further questions about this topic tonight, decision making and changing your mind. Now, Gregory, when we have to change our mind, let me say, it's more about the consequences, Gregory, about changing your mind. It's how people see it, because I already said we human beings are not perfect and we are developing. So we are going to change our minds and things, but there are consequences when you do that. And of course, some decisions are, let's say, very important, others are less important. So we obviously need to think about them when we do some serious decisions when we change our mind. But then there's an impact out of making a decision or changing your mind, I should say, and it's how other people see it. For example, especially currently with our UK government, they made some big decision. For example, benefits. They decide they need to make cuts, and not everybody can have certain benefit. And then there's a big protest from the public and certain parliamentarians, and it seemed that it was so unpopular that the government, could lose badly, and then they thought, okay, we better change our mind. And so, and yet, yes, so just to give the little bit angle I'm talking about here, I mentioned the benefit. So there's the winter fuel allowance. People outside of UK probably have no understanding of what that is. So the elderly people, retired pensioners, they automatically were getting this winter fuel allowance automatically, no matter they're a millionaire or they're, let's say, not so well off. And then the government said, well, that's not very good. We need to make some cuts. So let's cut some of the people who are supposedly well off, not so unwell. And I can't, no, not so well off, let's say, according to their standard, what they chose. But there was a big protest, and then they had to change their mind. And even currently, there's a debate about it now. So the point is, Gregory, I know I'm going around about it right now. So is it when somebody change their mind like a government, is it like a sign of weakness and lack of conviction, or is it something like facing the reality that, is it because, let me say, the motivation could be that if we make this decision, although it's an important decision and there has to be some cut they have to do, and if they don't, they will lose their power. That's I don't know what is the, because they don't explain their reasoning. When government make a decision, they say, okay, they will never call it officially a U-turn. They will just say they've been talking with their colleagues and whatever, and this is what they've come up with now. So nobody sort of admits very openly why they're changing their decision. But what I want to ask you, Gregory, when somebody's changing, the government is making a decision and they want to change it after, is it a sign of weakness or lack of conviction? Or is there some other, that's a sensible decision, sensible way forward?
Well, thanks for this particular question. It is said changing their mind or changing one's mind. There is a lot of confusion as regards to the mind, whether the mind refers to the intellect or the mind, is pointing to one's intuition. So there are two sources. If the change arose from one's intuition, strictly speaking, then the intuition would have examined it very thoroughly before making suggestions very swiftly. If, however, this change in decisions came from the intellect, which is basically decisions which have not been thought through very carefully, which decisions most of the time are made in an arbitrary manner within a very narrow space, then you will find that such decisions will have to undergo quick changes again and again and again. But the question is, where is it pointing to? When it is said there is a change from what to what? What they had before and what they now wish to move into. The question one should ask, is the new one better than the old? What evidence is there that the new is better than the old as regards intellectual decisions we keep changing very quickly? So it depends on the source. If such changes have sprung from one's intellect, then you will find that it is arbitrary. If, on the other hand, that's not the case, it has sprung from the spirit, then it is more genuine because it must have been reflected very deeply over time and space, and most likely in accordance with the laws of creation.
Thank you for this answer, Gregory. And what I'm thinking now, I'm not sure the government or let's say in most cases, because you act according to what you know. This is how people act. And if you, like you say, if they haven't reflected intuitively, and only with the intellect, then let's say they probably will be changing their mind a few times. Uh, but maybe, Gregory, there, yes, I'm thinking about that, what you said there. Let's say they're working they realize that there's only a certain amount of money in the budget, as they say, and and they're realizing the need is greater than what is in the budget. So they're saying, okay, we can't give it to the supply for this need, so we have to cut something. And this is how let's say they're making the angle of the decision making is coming from this angle. So, I know I'm being specific on this particular one because this is what is in the headlines for a while now, and even today there's a government vote going on about something, another decision, which is about another benefit, you can say, and it's having the same problem that certain people are going to suffer out of this decision. And the let's say not the right word, demoted. The issue is they need to make cut, or so they have decided. Let's say they need to make a cut because there's always more than one way to break an egg. Well, I say that if you look at things properly, you should be able to find, let's say, solution. But somehow, maybe like you say, Gregory, they're making decision quickly. And when they do quickly, they are not able to reflect in a deeper and a wider way. And so the decision is on a narrow basis. And guess what? Something that you didn't consider is now going to come and hit you after you make your decision. And it looks like that's what is going on. So, so Gregory, can you help us a little bit more? What advantage because you said people are making decisions using their intellect, and they should be using their intuition. So what does the intuition have, which the intellect doesn't have? What is it that it considers, the intuition, and what does the intellect consider? Can you tell us about this?
The intuition considers events far into the future and strives to ensure that the decisions made are consistent with the laws of creation through which the human personality came into existence, through which all that exists rests. So such decisions are consistent, always consistent with the past, consistent with the present, and most likely with the future. So it is that consistency that you find with intuitive decisions, whereas that which one refers to as the intellectual decisions, there is no deep reflection. It's just made based on very narrow principles, just to, in quotes, satisfy the demands of people, or sometimes to satisfy personal interest. So only a purified intellect, purified in the sense that it's able to listen to one's intuition and base its decision on one's intuition. Only that will be strategic, will be consistent. There must be consistency, because you just mentioned, okay, they then realize, okay, this is not right. They have discussed with their colleagues, and they have made this decision. What guarantee is there that there will not be any change after another 10 seconds or 10 minutes or 10 days? Because then another obstacles will just pop up, and then they will flip again. Like you yourself mentioned, there have been so many U-turns. These U-turns have their basis because there has not been deep consult. It is done with the principle of one for all and all for one. Then means the people must consult it. And one might have or would have listened to one's intuition and the input from others, from their intuitions and from their intellect. Governance is more challenging than many think. It is not that one should be rushing to become head of government without prior reflection, without deep reflection. And that is why you find that the so-called politicians, what they are thinking of the now, they're not even planning on the long run. This is how people will survive. But all they care is, okay, let us make for the now. Only subsequently they find the whole thing collapses. But they will never blame themselves, they will blame others. So there's no basis at all for such quick intellectual decisions which are completely inconsistent with the laws of creation through which they all came into existence.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for this answer and picture you've given to us. Yes, I can say most of these politicians, they're making a short-term decision because after 5 years or 4 years they have election, and they want to stay in power. Because if they weren't bothered about staying in power, they wouldn't mind. And but then there's no future. You know, it's not only for them. They're supposed to. In theory, they're in government to look after the people and the future, you know, of the country. So people should be thinking long term. But sometimes it's quite a, let's say, task, responsibility to run. Well, I'm talking country at the moment, but that's the responsibility that you have to take on. So thank you for that. Now, Gregory, you know, we're talking about changing your mind and not after making decision or something, but then, you know, there are certain things like principles or values, you know, which you're not supposed to, let's put it this way, it's supposed to be, you know, those things are not meant to change, you know. Obviously being truthful and, you know, that is obviously, that's how you will look at the things properly, of course, if you're doing that. And then, but then, or even morality. Okay, so, for example, when government making decision, they're saying it is for the, let's say, disabled people or people who are let's call it disabled, just to keep just one word to put that in. But then, as I said, Gregory, they said there's a limited amount, and then they're finding that this amount is getting, the demand is getting higher and higher, and it is unaffordable for the future. And so one is thinking, is this really, because people can get dependent, that's another problem. If you keep giving people money and they're not having to find their own way out of the situation, they now become dependent. And then even, although, let's say there is always some fraud with people trying to, you know, take advantage of the thing by, you know, by putting themselves, I can't say how much is the fraud, but in any case, let's say that is still a small amount. But the main point, Gregory, is you think, yes, you should help people, and then there's an issue. Are they becoming more dependent on this money and not finding fighting for themselves, you know, to be able to live, you know, because in a way, somehow everything seems to boil down to money. You know, you need money to live, you need money to do things, but then it's not enough to go around for everybody. And how can, let's say, if there's a fixed amount, how can you just spread it like thinly amongst so many people? So you somehow think there should be another solution where, and especially as I say, the demand is growing. So this is the, let's say, very difficult problem. And then one is wondering, how do you resolve that? Because if you think for the short term, if you think for the long term, the short term, okay, you can handle it. But if it's growing over the long term, you think that's not really solving the problem. That's just, how can I say? It seems not possible to solve the problem, that we say. So what do we do in this type of very difficult situation?
Such insoluble problems are only or have sprung up from intellectual reasoning. If those who are concerned with these were to reflect very deeply, spiritually, or intuitively, then the models which they have put forward will be more comprehensive, will be far-reaching. You yourself mentioned that there are elections to be won, and therefore you will find along the line all form of fabrication without calm reflection how things should be done. Therein lies the insolubility, because things are mentioned which have no basis. They build up a model of economics, which model is completely inconsistent with the laws of creation. Such models may only last for a very short while, because they will not be tenable. If, however, there are strategic goals which are reflected upon, then in that particular scenario, the models which they bring forward will be more enduring over time. So if one reflects very carefully, you find that that is the case. Whereas what has happened always, let us say this to win the election. Let us say that to win election. But a false premise. That is always why there are problems which are not solvable. And they have to examine the basis of their assumptions. These assumptions are, when examined carefully, these assumptions contradict themselves. Because all they are considering is that we have to win elections, manufacture as many lies as possible, keep changing our minds. That is always the case. So they are not even worth considering, because the welfare of the people, the welfare of those they wish to govern, that have been swept aside. It has been false modeling which has been their goal. And that is why you find all these problems coming up. If for once they are to face the reality, they are to consult widely within the country, get all involved, as many representatives as possible, get them involved and see if they can come up with more enduring models. Then this will be a strategic plan over time, not in 1 month, not in 3 months, not in 1 year or 5 years, but it will be much longer. This is what is lacking when politicians are making decisions. And that is why you have they keep changing their mind. Actually, they never planned anything. They only have to say something in order to find others guilty.
Thank you, Gregory, for that answer. I want to let the listeners know that they are listening to Bless Radio, and this is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Aprushin. And if you wish to know more about the Grail message or want to get a copy of the Grail message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, G-R-A-I-L, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic that we are discussing tonight is making decision, changing your mind. Making decision, changing your mind. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 00447939 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And you can also contact us on through the website where we are broadcasting. That is Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1.com. If you scroll down on the homepage, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. And we are also broadcasting on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1 there, space, Grail message, space, the topic of the show tonight, which is making decision, changing your mind. If you and of course, after this show, which ends at 8 p.m., you're going to listen to a recording of this show, which is again the same way. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number 1 there, space, Grail message, space, the topic, which is making decision, changing your mind. And of course, you can listen to the recording of our previous shows also on YouTube. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno. That's ZENO.FM/Bless Radio 1. Sorry, no, I just remembered. It's Zeno, yeah. That's ZENO.FM/radio, and then another / Bless Radio 1. Now, Gregory, Gregory, you said we should be using our intuition when making our decisions, and the intellect is supposed to work with the intuition. Now, people sometimes use different words for, let's say, intellect. They use the word head, and sometimes they use the word heart. You could say for the intuition, what is in my heart, and even they use the what is emotion, and then so now and what I want to get now, when people are using, in quotes, they use the word heart. Is it the same as when we use the word intuition, or even emotion, or is it just because we can how do we say, we use some, I was going to say the word metaphor, but it's not quite metaphor. But people use alternative word to express a particular concept. Like we have sayings, um, and so I just wanted to get that clear in my head. So you say, do you, let's say, think with your heart, or think with your head? That's and head being the intellect, and the heart being the intuition. Or let's say, that is the way I'm interpreting it. So when all I'm trying to say by saying these concepts is, how should we, when people are using such words, should we go with those words, or should we be more precise about it, about this concept? Oh, you're on mute.
Just a minute. Most of the time, when you hear that expression path, it points to the intuition. It points, but it is not equivalent to one's intuition. Because one's intuition presents a picture without words. Whereas when the heart is referred to, even words are attached to it. So along the line, there has been a mix-up. That which is intuitive, most of the time, is consistent. It's consistent with the laws of creation, depending on the maturity of the individual. When it comes to activities, the intuition provides a strategic framework. Thereafter, the intellect takes over. The intellect presents a tactical. That means you have an activity to accomplish over time. However, in order to accomplish that particular task, there is how one needs to take it in a step-by-step basis based on the current possibilities. So it's not that because you have that one's intuition has presented a given task which is consistent, one jumps into it. A very simple example is intuitively there is the need in the case of music to compose a tune. This tune presents itself to the individual. However, how is the individual going to proceed to ensure it's able to accomplish what is needed in order to bring this tune into fruition? Even if in the initial instance, the personality doesn't even know how to play an instrument, you will find that some of the first steps will be that the individual starts humming the tune. That is a first step. Subsequently, it might then procure a string instrument or a brass instrument or drums or a violin and start mimicking that which deep within it has sensed. Along this direction, these are tactical moves. I hum it, I beat the drum. These are tactical moves that the individual takes in order to accomplish that. It may take a long time, depending on how he himself or herself has tuned himself to adjust to the tactics. All right, this is what I need to do. This is how I'm going to go about it. So this is how these things go. The intuition presents a picture without words, neutral. How that had to be accomplished is now dependent on the individual in a tactical manner, based on the resources available. The journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step. So tactically, you take this step, you take that step. In times gone by, when you had that the aircraft wasn't available, there were many in religious circles who had to go for a pilgrimage. That picture was very clear to them in spirit, in their intuition. To accomplish that, even though aircraft, at first they were donkeys, they were horses, they were camels. And it wasn't that in order to accomplish that which has been presented to them, they just jumped into a donkey and started riding towards. There was a plan, a tactical plan. There are some who left their origin and took the first step to another place, another city, and had to walk in that city for quite some time. Some did it for 3 months, some for 6 months, some for 1 year, to gather their resources. And then they took another step. And in order to accomplish that pilgrimage, it could have taken up to 5 or 6 years. But they were able to get there unflinching. And subsequently, having accomplished that, they were able to find their way back. That period could have been 5 or 7 or even 10 years. So one can see that which is intuitive and that which is tactical. That which is tactical is only for a short period of time, but the goal must be unflinching. If politicians, or whatever they call themselves, or individuals, if they have pictures presented to them in spirit, in which the intuition manifested this picture to them, then it becomes theirs to work hard enough to see how they can bring this to a realization. If, however, everything is tactical, without any intuition behind it, all you need to do, go and ask the politician, what is the final goal? Is it the welfare of the people? If it is the welfare of the people, then there's the need to invest in the people there is the need for us to find out the capabilities of the people and how it could be one for all and all for one. How they will build a structure, put forward a modeling which will be consistent with the laws of creation and will also be helpful to the people. All this idea of, oh, where is the money? That does not even count because it is the government that prints the money. Is it not the government who does quantitative easing? Is it not the government who finds money for war? Now, to find money, or to put structures in place, activities in place for peaceful coexistence in the support of the individual, one for all and all for one, they have no clue. That already tells you that they do not know what they are talking about.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for this answer and the picture you're giving us, painting for us. What I can see is what is missing is the big picture. People are looking, as we already said, in a narrow way. They just said they can find money for war. Don't have any problem with that one. They don't hesitate on that one. But when it's for the benefit, for the welfare of the whole people, everything is a struggle. But there's no problem getting the money for the war. So it shows the priorities and the values. There's something is, how can I say, not quite right in the way we are thinking. I'm just bringing this point up just to show another, you could say, way how people are talking about a particular scenario. So for what I want to say, I was listening to a radio show, Gregory, which is a talk show about news, what is happening. Now, I'm trying to give it in a very brief way. So I've forgotten the exact story, but somebody who had taken cannabis, and also he bought a very long knife, samurai sword, and he now jumped in a car or van, and he killed almost randomly, you can say, who he came across on his path. One was I think a 14-year-old schoolboy who was just going home, I think. But before that, he attacked other people, and this is in UK, in London. Anyway, they said he became psychotic with taking this cannabis, but in the end he was convicted for murder, and even that psychotic aspect of it was not considered, let's say, much of a can't say the right word right now. They didn't reduce his sentence too much according to that psychotic issue. Anyway, I'm just putting that one on the side, that story on the side. There's other people in this talk show talking about cannabis, saying, oh, cannabis is not really that harmful. In this case, yes, something happened, for sure, very harmful. And so what there was, and then even I'm just putting another side of it. They said, oh, if the government legalized this cannabis, it would be controlled rather than buying from the street where the suppliers can add something to it, making it more dangerous or uncontrolled, basically. So what we're saying here, Gregory, there's like this debate. Is one side thinks, yes, there's a harm in it. Sometimes the other side is saying, actually, no, it doesn't do that much harm, really. And let's say it's a small scale. So my question on this is this, Gregory. Let me just repeat the two sides. One side is saying when it's legal, if you legalize cannabis, it is now under government control. It will be produced and it'll be done like cheaply. And while if it is not controlled and not legalized, it is the drug dealers controlling it, which is maybe putting more poison into it and having more trouble. And then, as I said, the other angle is there's one or two cases where the drug has a very terrible effect and the person becomes psychotic and so on. So my question on this, Gregory, is, and even some people could say, oh, this is from nature, so this shouldn't be considered as a harmful thing. But let me not go there. So the question is, Gregory, when you have this type of, how can I say, scenario, how can one come to, let's say, the right decision? Whether to legalize or not to legalize? You know, is it, because in a way everything is harmful. Even alcohol is not illegal, and when it's taken in the uncontrollable quantity, then of course it has a massive impact. And not everybody has an accident with it, but it can cause accident. In a way, everything can be harmful, and it can also be helpful. Let me say beneficial. So how can one make a decision how to, if to make something legal or not legal? And even, as I say, Gregory, there's some medicinal qualities in this cannabis that they have okay, so the world has noted that as well. So this is the issue, which way to go, you know, have full control like this, legalize it, then the criminals are not going to be able to do their issue, you know, cause the trouble that they cause because it's under control. So how can one make a decision about this type of issue?
Very simple. Investigate thoroughly. Government that intends to put controls in place, they themselves must do the homework. After all, they did the homework with regard to alcohol. They did the homework with regard to drugs, and they granted license. Therefore, they themselves, independently, must investigate factually on the effects of whatever they call it, our so-called weed. They should investigate thoroughly before coming to a conclusion. If, however, they have to listen to others without investigating themselves, then that is one-sided. Just as they did investigation into alcohol, which they then permitted and granted licenses, so must they also investigate on the effects of these so-called marijuana, whatever they care to call it, the effects on the human personality, the effect on the body, the effect on the soul of man. Until they carry out that thorough investigation, then they are only one-sided in their decision.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for that, Gregory. Now, I want to share with everybody, I have a colleague who helps me with questions on the show. Her name is Harriet, and she wrote some words. And so I'm just sharing some of that now. So she says, if one has made up one's mind, does that mean that after one has considered all the pros and cons, including what benefit will ensue for the good of all, who may in the wider picture be affected, Um, um, yes, one second. Okay. Okay, that's how the decision. I'm just trying to get this to myself. Yeah, once decision potentially in a less formal or severe way has been. Sorry, let me repeat that. Let me start again there. If one has made up one's mind, does that mean that after one has considered all the pros and cons, including what benefit will ensue for the good of all, who may in the wider picture be affected? Um, affected once one's decision making lands on an unsuspecting world. A world was at worst or at best faulty due to over enthusiasm, lack or a cavalier attitude. So I'm going to read that again, and I think I'm trying to get what she's saying as well. So if one has made up one's mind, does that mean that after one has considered all the pros and cons, including of what benefit will ensue for the good of all, who may in the wider picture be affected, once one's decision making lands on an unsuspecting world was at worst wrong or at best faulty due to overenthusiasm, lack of maturity, or a cavalier attitude. So Gregory, I don't know if you followed that.
It is difficult to follow.
Right. I'm gonna
uncertain,
try and summarize myself.
Don't worry.
Okay, maybe you have it already. Okay, if you can, maybe you say the question in your way, and then you can answer it.
What I'm going to say is making up one's mind. One needs to be fair. Where is the individual who has reflected on the consequences of deeds, on the consequences of one's thoughts, on the consequences of one's intuition? These are three different areas. These three different areas need to be considered rigorously, so thorough that there is clarity. There is clarity in spirit through one's intuition. There is clarity in thoughts, because these thoughts resonate with one's intuition. There is clarity in deeds, because these deeds resonate with one's thoughts, which thoughts resonate with one's intuition. Where is that individual who has matured to that extent, to have made up its mind? You will search for such an individual with a beam of light in pure daylight, because there are so very few. It therefore demands that the human personality must be humble, must proceed cautiously, must proceed intuitively, always continuous examination. Such will entail continuous vigilance and alertness. Such will entail continuous exertion in spirit, in one's intellect, and in one's streets. It also entails that whatever decision is taken resonates with the laws of creation through which it, the individual, came into existence and all that exists came into existence. Only that personality can be categorized as having made up their mind. They are very rare. So these are not expressions which should be taken lightly, but should be taken with all the seriousness in one's intuition, all the seriousness in one's thoughts and in one's deeds. Such are the ones that have made up their mind. Made up their mind, not made down their mind, up in the sense that they wish to ascend upwards. Those are the ones that have made up their mind.
Thank you very much, Gregory, for that. I just want to let the listeners know that you're listening to Bless Radio, and this is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Aprushi. And if you wish to know more about the Grail message or want to get a copy of the Grail message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic that we're discussing tonight is making decision, changing your mind. Making decision, changing your mind. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 00 44 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting, that is blessradio1, that's the number 1.com. If you scroll down on the home page, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. And we are also broadcasting on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box. Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1 there, space, Grail message, space, topic of the show, which is making decision, changing your mind. And of course, and after this show, you can listen to the recording of this show, or exactly the same way. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box, Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1, space, Grail message, space, making decision, changing your mind. And there's another place you can listen to us, which is Zeno, ZENO.FM/radio/Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1 there. Now, agree. I'm thinking, people have, let's say, a faith, spiritual faith, religion. They have been following since their childhood. And then, but they have questions in their mind, or, as they're growing up. And then Maybe they disagree with something in their religion, and they even may be wondering, oh, there's other religion. I wonder if they know something I don't know from this, what I know. They might have such questions. And normally people don't, would say, move away from their faith because they think it's a very big thing to do that, because it has maybe consequences with their family or something like that, and so they stay as they are, really believing or accepting whatever they've been brought up with. But in the back of their mind, if I say like that, they may be questioning some things, especially in the world we live today with so much internet technology. People can talk to any person. You can reach out to so many places. So, and then let's say somebody does come discover something else in their journey, spiritual journey, which make them think or question their belief and say, oh no, maybe I don't want to be follow what I've been following, and because I don't really believe in that. There's something here that seems to be answering my questions. But this is quite, let's say, unusual or bold decision, you can say, to change your belief or path, and it takes courage, because most people don't even go there. So this, as I said, this is a very serious matter, and people are set mostly in their way. And it's like a question of your life, if I'm honest, when you have to move away from what you have been following. So, and if I say the topic is making decision, changing your mind. Now, Gregory, what do you say about this change in this particular field of changing your, let's say, your faith or following your belief that you up till for a long time you have been doing, and because you found something different and new, which is more appealing somehow, let's say, is this, how can one, would say, be confident when you are changing your mind in this way about this type of thing?
Thanks for this particular question. It's a massive challenge for many persons. But the first things first, how can one be confident that the faith one has is realistic? That the faith one has is in accordance with the laws of nature. That the faith one has is consistent. If one does not examine that which is referred to as faith, if one does not weigh that which is referred to as faith, that lack of examination, that lack of weighing, in accordance with the laws of motion in making progress, that is to a large extent indolence, not only indolence in spirit, but indolence even in the intellect, because of the inhibitions in weighing. If the human personality accepts everything without questioning, then he makes himself or herself guilty. Years ago, in some countries, they had as culture, if one had twins, those twins were killed because they didn't know better. They didn't accept it. So they said it's their culture, it's their faith. Until someone came and said, no, that cannot be right. Now it is past tense. Years ago, where things were improving, there were people who could ride horses, who could ride camels swiftly, no problem. When the advent of cars came in, there were many who opposed it. So said it's unnatural. And they held on to, who would ride our camels, who would ride our horses and donkeys. That is past tense now. That which is considered as faith, that which is considered as belief, must be examined rigorously. Why? You wake up, if you are fortunate, you are able to see the sun. That sun, in quotes, the popular saying, rises from the east and sets in the west. It is the sun that rises from the east and then sets. That is what one sees, and one accepts it. No further examination. But on rigorous examination, it is not the sun that rises. It is the earth that moves around the sun. So the effect is that it is the earth that does the movement, not the sun. Because many just believe. Just as many will have to examine that it is the earth that does the movement around the sun, so also must many examine their beliefs. To what extent is it alive? To what extent does it resonate with the laws of creation? Only the laws of creation and the effects of these laws of creation, only they can be called realities. All else are likely to be illusions. So that which is called faith must be examined thoroughly, must be weighed thoroughly. There is the need to weigh not only in deeds, but also to weigh in thoughts, again and again. Above all, to weigh using one's intuition, which intuition will present some token clues to the individual, which the individual needs to examine, which the individual needs to weigh. If, however, the individual is indolent, when these clues are made very clearly, or when these clues manifest before the individual, then the fault is that of the individual. So that which is referred to as faith, as belief, must be examined to have the nitty-gritty of it, to make it so very familiar, such that a second step is taken. Faith, when examined and weighed in accordance with the laws of nature, of creation, it becomes personal conviction. Then and only then is the individual alive. Else it is still asleep.
Once again, for this answer, Gregory, and picture you're painting for us about weighing and examining, everything. It sounds, you're questioning everything. You might think that it's like you don't believe in anything. But how will you have confidence if you don't check what the direction you're going? You know the way to your home or to your work. That's when you don't question it. But there's other things you are taking without checking, and you're making decisions. And how do you know what is the right decision or wrong? So the only way is to keep checking, weighing, and examining. So thank you for that. I'm going to go back to my colleague Harriet's some words from there. Could it be that one would be wiser to ask in prayer or even just in thought for help to gather all that one must surely need to be making any decision, as no man or woman, for that matter, is an island? Let me say it again. Could it be that one would be wiser to ask in prayer or even just in thought for help to gather all that one must surely need to be making any decision, as no man or woman, for that matter, is an island? So, Gregory, do we need to pray? Sorry.
It is helpful to ask for help. The biggest challenge is to understand, to know what response has been given to the individual who is asking for help, to know that what it has been granted is help. There is help everywhere. However, how is the individual able to tell that a response to his or her inquiry is help? If, however, that individual has not examined that which is coming to it. So again, maybe it is best if the individual first prays to be able to discern that which is of benefit and therefore helpful, such that when he then makes a request for help, it is able to recognize it. For many who, in quotes, need help, they need help in accordance with their very narrow views. They expect that him whom, in quotes, they pray to in prayer, if that's what we call prayer at all, should come down to serve them, to find a solution to their problems, to present all that they ask for, even if what they are asking for is detrimental to them. So, such, one may not say, is in accordance with him who placed the laws of creation, into nature. So, for many who are always crying out, oh, all we need to do is pray. Of course, the free will is there to pray or not to pray. But how do they picture this prayer? How do they wish that which they are seeking, if at all they are seeking in humility, not in haughtiness, how do they wish this to come about? These are the things they themselves must first clarify. For if they were humble enough, then the scales will drop from their eyes to find out that that which they are seeking may not be beneficial to it, or if really the need is there, that which they are seeking, the solution has already been presented to them, but they themselves, due to their wrong inner attitude, would not recognize it. Only when the individual throws away its haughtiness, its wanting to know better, and becomes humble in deeds, humble in thoughts, and above all, humble in its intuition, only then will it gradually adjust itself to the rhythm of nature, of creation, and subsequently scales will drop from its eyes, because then it will already perceive that due to its wrong attitude, many a thing which he himself has been seeking, which things have been provided for, he missed out. Therefore, the human personality must pray differently. The human personality first must be vigilant in spirit, vigilant in thoughts and in deeds, also the alertness. If he or she does that, combined with humbleness, with the right attitude, then that which it needs, that is, if he seeks diligently, he will find.
Thanks very much, Gregory. There are more words that Harriet has written, but I think I won't got time to read them now. I just probably finish with her last, you could say, her opinion, which I think you could say shows the way we human beings have an act in making decisions and changing our mind. So I will read that out. It says, personally, I find we only honestly change our minds about anything we may have decided upon when, one, we have no choice. Number two, when we are presented with irrefutable proof. And number three, when we are grown older and wiser after life has reshaped our minds for us. Just going to repeat that. Personally, I find we only honestly change our minds about anything that we may have decided upon when, one, we have no choice, two, when we are presented with irrefutable proof, and number three, when we are grown older and wiser after life has reshaped our minds for us. So I would say that's the story of us human beings, of how we normally act. Yes, dear listeners, hope you've enjoyed the discussion on the topic tonight of making decision, changing your mind. Now I'd like to read from the Grail message the foreword, which is titled For Your Guidance. The bandage falls and belief becomes conviction. Liberation and redemption lie only in conviction. I am addressing earnest seekers only. They must be able and willing to examine this matter objectively. Religious fanatics and irresponsible enthusiasts may hold aloof, for they are detrimental to the truth. As for the malevolent and prejudiced, they shall find their sentence in the very words. The message will strike only those who still carry within them a spark of truth and the yearning to be true human beings. To all such, it will become the shining light and star. It will lead them unswervingly out of all the chaos of the present-day confusion. The following word does not bring a new religion, but is intended as the torch to help all serious listeners or readers find the right path, which leads them to the longed-for height. Only he who bestirs himself can advance spiritually. The fool who uses extraneous aids for this, in the form of ready-made opinions of others, only walks his path as if on crutches, while ignoring his own healthy limbs. But the moment he boldly uses all the abilities which lie dormant within him, awaiting his call to help in his ascent, he is employing the talent entrusted to him in accordance with his Creator's will, and will easily overcome all obstacles that seek to divert him. Therefore awake. Genuine faith lies only in conviction, and conviction comes solely through an inflexible weighing and examining. See that you're truly alive in the wonderful creation of your God, Abdrushi. So, dear listeners, if you wish to know more about the Grail message or want to get a copy of the Grail message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. Gregory, is there anything you'd like to say to the listeners to say goodbye?
Wishing listeners a very beautiful week ahead.
Thank you. Same from me, listeners. Have a beautiful week ahead. We'll be back as usual next Tuesday, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time, with another topic. Good night.